It was the 6th year of my secret marriage to Robert when we decided on a secret divorce. To spare his new girlfriend the shame of being a mistress replacing the wife. He said, "I don't want anyone to know we were married." I nodded, said nothing, just added an extra 0 to the property division. Robert's face fell. "In your heart, is there nothing but money?" I let out a small laugh. "After so many years of marriage, you still know me best." Robert was admitted to the hospital after getting drunk. The nurse asked, "Who here is the patient's family?" Sarah and I stood up at the same time. "I am." "It's me." The nurse frowned. "Who exactly?" Sarah quickly stepped forward. "It's me. Tell me whatever you need to." The nurse explained the precautions for staying overnight. Sarah listened very carefully. I turned to look at Robert. His breathing was heavy, his brow deeply furrowed, the corners of his eyes red, but his lips were pale and bloodless. It had been years since I'd seen him like this. Drinking capacity was something you could train, but it depended more on physical constitution. And Robert was, unfortunately, allergic to alcohol. Sarah held his hand, tears welling in her eyes. For a mistress to be doing what she was doing, I, the original wife, felt quite awkward. I hesitated, wondering if I should just leave, when she spoke. "It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have drunk so much." My assistant had already told me the inside story before I came. At the dinner party, someone had hit on Sarah and tried to get her to drink, but Robert stopped them. That person said, sarcastic, "A man who doesn't even dare to drink, you'd be better off with me." Robert was long past the age for being impulsive. But that night, he lost his temper and started having a drink-off with the guy. Anyone who knew Robert knew. He wasn't a good drinker. But if he was willing to risk his life to drink with you, you wouldn't necessarily win. In his wild and reckless youth, he'd ended up in the hospital several times because of this kind of behavior. The last time was in the 2nd year of our marriage. He was throwing up blood in the hospital, and I was in a car accident on the highway. After that, he changed. Sarah asked, "Miss Catherine, did he used to protect you like this too?" I pulled the corners of my mouth into a smile. "You stay and watch him. I'll head back first." "Ms. Catherine." Sarah's voice was anxious. She bit her lips slightly, as if making up her mind. "I told Robert the first wanted to get married, and he agreed. 2 days prior, I had turned my car around and rushed back to the office because I'd left something important behind." Passing Robert's office, the light was still on inside. Sarah was sitting sideways on Robert's lap, her arms around his neck, leaning against him. She said in a soft, sweet voice, "Robert, I want to get married." I don't have a habit of eavesdropping, but that sentence stopped me in my tracks. Robert had a relaxed smile on his face, his eyes slightly narrowed, running his fingers through Sarah's long hair, over and over. "What, is the little girl eager to marry?" "No way." Sarah huffed. "I just want to marry you. Robert, will you marry me? Please?" I stood outside the door, watching Robert intently through the slightly ajar opening. He was silent for a long time. The smile faded from his face. He looked straight at me, silently. Then he said softly, "Okay. Ms. Catherine, Robert doesn't like you anymore. He likes me now." Sarah said it with full confidence. She looked at me, nervous yet proud. I lowered my gaze. "Then congratulations." Robert returned to the workplace the next afternoon. As soon as he entered his office, he called and asked me to come over. Pushing the door open, I saw him leaning his head on his hand, pressing hard on his temples with his thumb. The after effects of a hangover, his migraine was acting up. Organize the Xinhui project and hand it over to Sarah. His sudden words left me stunned for a few seconds. What? He didn't repeat himself, just looked at me with a heavy gaze. The Xinhui project is very important, and Sarah is just starting out. So she needs opportunity, she needs a highlight, she needs an impressive resume. I fell silent again. "Catherine, I'm not discussing this with you." Robert slammed his hand on the desk, clearly impatient. Taking a deep breath, I unclenched my tightly fisted hands. "Okay. But I have one condition." Robert lifted his chin, signaling for me to speak. Don't change the original team. Just replace the person in charge with her. The bonuses and rewards for the project members, not a cent less. Fine, I agree. After receiving Robert's confirmation, I turned and left. I spent an hour and a half organizing everything and explaining the situation to everyone. Their eyes on me held pity, sympathy, indignation, and anger. I tapped on the table. Don't get emotional. Don't talk about loyalty. It's just work. Do the job, get paid. Holding the documents, I went back into Robert's office. Sarah was there too. She was smiling and feeding Robert a cookie. Robert didn't like any sweets. Although he frowned, he still reluctantly accepted it. Seeing me, Sarah quickly stood up straight. You guys have things to discuss. I'll head out first. No need. Robert put the cookie box in Sarah's hand. Go eat over there. Then he looked at me, his tone unfriendly. Remember to knock next time you come in. Hadn't I knocked? It seemed I hadn't. It was a habit. There won't be a next time. What? I placed all the files on Robert's desk. Meeting his suspicious gaze, I slid the bottom A4 paper towards him. It was my resignation letter. Robert froze for 2 seconds. When he looked up again, his eyes were cold. What do you mean? Are you threatening me? I paused. You're thinking too much. The resignation letter was prepared a long time ago, just waiting for the Xinhui project to finish. Now that it's handed over, all my tasks are completed. It's just time to resign. Robert's face was grim as he stared me down. Sarah seemed frightened. Miss Catherine, I won't do this project. Please don't be angry. I know I'm not qualified. I just wanted to learn from you. I won't participate. It's my fault. I apologize to you. Robert's expression darkened further. He pulled Sarah closer. You'll do it if you want to do it. You don't need to apologize to anyone. Resigning, are you? Does the company stop running without you? Robert picked up his pen and quickly scribbled his name at the bottom. He threw the resignation letter at me. Get out. I looked down at the paper lying at my feet. There's one more thing. Robert's face was taut. He didn't say a word. Since you and Sarah are getting married, shouldn't we end our marriage first? Even Sarah's quiet sobbing stopped at this. She grabbed Robert's arm, looking at him nervously and expectantly. Robert's body stiffened slightly. He slowly turned his head. What did you say? I said, let's just get a divorce while we're at it. Sarah was sent away by Robert. She was a bit reluctant but didn't defy him, only giving me a look of hesitant longing as she left. Robert and I stood facing each other. He broke the silence first. How long have you been planning this resignation? Half a year. So you were ready to divorce half a year ago, is that right? I neither admitted nor denied it. Robert scoffed. Catherine, what right do you have to ask for a divorce? I looked at him. Does saying that matter now? No, it doesn't. Robert took a divorce agreement from the bottom drawer. Ask for whatever terms you want. Just one thing. I don't want anyone talking about Sarah being a mistress replacing the wife. So no one can know about our divorce. Or rather, I don't want anyone to know we were married. I skimmed the agreement contents. Nodded. Okay, no problem. Then I picked up a pen and added an extra 0 to the property division. Robert looked at me with a sarcastic gaze. Catherine, in your heart, is there nothing but money? I curved my lips into a smile. After so many years of marriage, you still know me best. That day, I packed up all my things and left the company. Some people were gloating, some were reluctant to see me go. The one with the most complicated emotions was probably Sarah. She looked like she wanted to say something, but the relief on her face was visible. Returning home, it felt strange suddenly not having work. All day, I felt like a cat with its tail cut off, unsure what to do with myself. In the afternoon, my assistant sent me a message. Today, Mr. Robert is like a fire-breathing dragon. Even the future boss's wife got a dressing down from him. Miss Catherine, I believe it won't be long before he realizes he's cut his own major artery. If you find a good place to go, take us with you. We all really want to follow you, hee hee. I smiled slightly. Don't overthink it. As long as the Xinhui project is secured, the company still has a promising future. At least your salaries and benefits won't be shortchanged. As for me, I didn't plan on working again anytime soon. That evening, Jessica asked me out for a drink. Like clockwork, she asked every day. I replied, "Send me your location." The next second, her call came through. It's a miracle. The workaholic is taking a break. What, did Robert go bankrupt? Hearing her energetic voice, I couldn't help but smile too. So, are you letting me come or not? Come on, hurry up. Private room, drinks, attractive guys, we've got it all. I met Jessica through Robert, but unexpectedly became friends with her. She was one of the few people who knew Robert and I were married. So, faced with Robert's blatant infidelity, she was both annoyed with Robert and dedicated to introducing me to men. In her words, if he's going to do that, don't blame you for doing the same. You might even have better options than him. By the time I arrived, Jessica was already having a blast. Holding up a wine glass, she was screaming and dancing, surrounded by a group of 6-foot-tall male models. Catherine, hurry up. She pushed the most handsome one towards me. The guy was also smooth, calling me Catherine and pouring me a drink. I smiled faintly and drank it in one gulp. All right, you guys can go out first. No, what do you mean? Catherine, you're being such a buzzkill. I rubbed my temples helplessly. It's noisy. She winked at me. I thought you were shy. I raised an eyebrow. Do you think I'm that innocent? Definitely not. That's why I don't get it. Robert is like that. Why are you staying faithful for him? Jessica was blunt to the point of being exasperating. He cheats, I cheat, that's revenge. Revenge is too strong a word. We weren't at that point. Besides, he cheated after we broke up. Did he acknowledge that? Jessica sat up straight, her eyes sparkling. I think I've found something important here. I asked Jessica what she meant, but she wouldn't say, just being mysterious. All right, fine. Actually, I came over mainly to tell you I'm going abroad soon. What for? Travel? Business? School? Huh? I got accepted into business school. I'm going to grad school overseas. What about your job? And you and Robert? I've already resigned. As for Robert and me, we've agreed to go to the county clerk's office tomorrow. The point we reached with Robert was almost inevitable. I always felt like I didn't have much feeling left. But when Jessica's eyes turned red, I couldn't help but feel a pang of bitterness. Is he acting up again? No. Is he deliberately targeting you? No. Why should you resign? If anyone should leave, it should be him. Jessica. And I drank glass after glass. She railed against Robert, feeling sorry for me and indignant on my behalf. Perhaps love is the only thing in this world where input and return are not proportional. It's strange, two people who once loved each other, in the end, both feel like they were the ones who were wronged. Robert and I met in high school. He wasn't supposed to come to our small town. But because of a family upheaval, he had to transfer schools and live with his maternal grandfather. Back then, he was unruly and rebellious. Not long after school started, he was among the first to be publicly reprimanded. Others at least looked apologetic when they admitted their mistakes. But he, even standing in front of the whole school, remained defiant. I didn't like people like that. And I didn't want to have anything to do with them. But when he was framed, I couldn't help but step forward and testify for him. From that day on, he followed me, from school to my home, and wouldn't leave until I went upstairs. Without me, you would have been retaliated against already. Good student, stay out of trouble like this in the future. He didn't care. Fighting, being framed, misunderstandings, punishments, he didn't care about any of it. But when my dad's fist finished hitting my mom and was about to land on me, he charged forward and knocked him down with a kick. My mom shrieked, helped my dad up, glared at me, and called me a bitch. Robert froze. The next second, he grabbed me and ran. He cooked me a bowl of noodles. He boiled them for too long, and they were clumpy. He put in too much soy sauce, and it was a bit salty. He added the greens too late, and they were plain. It was the worst bowl of noodles I had ever eaten, yet I ate it all, even finishing the broth. In our turbulent youth, two lonely people, we found warmth in each other, supporting each other as we moved forward. But everyone was against us. The school opposed early dating. Robert's family looked down on me. I've seen plenty of gold diggers, but never one this young. My mom's eyes turned red with anger. She slapped me and said I was a disgrace. Robert was forcibly taken away, and I became an outcast at school. But he escaped, with all his savings, injuring his leg. He said, "Let's elope." I hugged him, pressing my head against his. 1 year. We'll get into the same college. Then no one can stop us. Just 1 year. Robert arrived at the county clerk's office earlier than I did. As I got out of the car, he was standing there, his eyes slightly narrowed, a cigarette between his fingers, pressing his thumb against his temple. Noticing my gaze, he looked up and extinguished the cigarette. "Let's go." The divorce process went very smoothly. The moment I received the divorce certificate, I couldn't help but let out a long breath. "What about your things in the apartment?" "Throw them away." Turning around, we walked away in opposite directions. There were still many things left for me to do. I hired a familiar professional organizer to clear out all the mail items from the apartment and pack the rest away for storage. Midway through the process, a young woman came out of the study holding a 36-inch picture frame. "Catherine, what should I do with this?" Inside the glass cracked like a spider web was an enlarged marriage certificate photo, framed. Looking at the picture of the two people, heads touching, smiling brightly and looking so happy, I felt a little lost. This was the one Robert and I had hung by the bed, in place of wedding photos. We hadn't taken wedding photos or held a wedding ceremony back then, just quietly got the certificate, hiding it from everyone. The reason was his family didn't approve. If we insisted on being together, we could only have a secret marriage. I didn't mind, but Robert was sad about it for a long time. At first, he said he'd compensate me once he was on his feet, making our marriage public. Later, he said it didn't matter, as long as we were happy, it didn't matter if others knew or not. Later still, he smashed the frame and said fiercely, "I'm so glad I listened to my mother." Throw the frame away, shred the photo. After taking care of everything, I boarded a plane a week later to go abroad. I changed my phone number and didn't tell anyone except Jessica. The first few days abroad were chaotic. Finding a place to live, getting familiar with the roads, buying things, handling school enrollment. The unfamiliar environment and language made me feel incredibly adrift. But soon, my busy studies dispersed all of that. When I video called Jessica that evening, she said, "I ran into Robert today." "He didn't know you went abroad, did he?" "No." "That explains it." "What happened?" Jessica said someone at the dinner table asked about me, asking why they hadn't seen me in a while. Sarah was eager to speak up, saying, "Catherine has already resigned. I'll be in charge of her work from now on. You can contact me if anything comes up." Just as she disliked Robert, Jessica also disliked Sarah. She said coolly, "Of course, your little company couldn't afford our Catherine. She left because she has better opportunities." Robert gave a sarcastic laugh. "She found a new job." "No, she went abroad." "You wouldn't believe it, when Robert heard you went abroad, he shot up from his seat and spilled a bowl of hot soup on Sarah's leg." Sarah cried out in pain, but Robert didn't even notice. He just stared at me, his face completely pale. I listened to what Jessica said like gossip and didn't take it to heart. 3 days later, Jessica contacted me, furious. "I'm going to kill Robert. He comes to the office every day, cornering me and asking where you went. I ask him why he's looking for you, and he doesn't answer. He smells so strongly of smoke, it's enough to choke you. I was silent for a few seconds. If it bothers you, just tell him. It's okay, you don't need to keep it a secret. I wasn't planning on hiding it from him anyway. I just didn't think it was necessary to tell him. But Jessica refused adamantly. No. Why should I tell him? I just won't tell him. Oh, and get ready to welcome me. Your birthday is in 10 days, I'm coming to celebrate with you. Jessica always paid a lot of attention to birthdays and holidays. Maybe it was her romantic nature at play. She would not only prepare gifts for me but also expect the same in return. As a result, someone like me, who never made a big deal out of birthdays growing up, inexplicably started valuing them as an adult. It was a bit chilly that day when I went to the airport to pick up Jessica. As soon as she saw me, she gave me a big hug. You're thinner. Your chin is sharper. But you seem to be in good spirits. Looks like you haven't been starving yourself. I smiled and took her back to my place. While she was showering in the bathroom, I opened the door and stepped outside. Under the dim streetlights, Robert stood there, wrapped in a black coat. He had the collar turned up, covering his chin. His gaze was heavy, and when he looked at me, it felt like he was completely enveloping me. You followed Jessica? She'll be angry if she finds out. Robert didn't say anything, just kept looking at me. After a long silence, he turned and left. Robert wasn't doing well. He had a fever. A low-grade fever without a clear cause had been tormenting him for a week. He wasn't sleeping well. From the day Catherine asked for a divorce, he hadn't had a single good night's sleep. When he learned Catherine had gone abroad, his insomnia peaked. Anxious, adrift, he felt as if he had suddenly been placed on the edge of a cliff. No one was pulling him back. He could fall off at any moment. Sitting on a bench in a foreign country, a place he didn't know, Robert suddenly felt a sense of relief, a little sleepy. Sarah H's call came through. She shrieked hysterically, "You went to find her? You're already divorced. Didn't you say we'd start over? Didn't we agree?" Robert's breathing was steady. "We also agreed you'd play along with me." Sarah suddenly fell silent. Just as Robert was about to hang up, she started crying. "But you didn't push me away when I hugged you. We kissed. You said you'd try with me. I could feel it. You like me. Robert, please come back. I'll start over with you. Let's start over." Robert had already closed his eyes, leaning back, completely relaxed. "But you're not her. Then what about me? I love you." Robert hung up the phone and then turned it off. He had found Catherine. This calmed his heart. Robert's appearance made me feel somewhat disoriented. His silence was as if he were just passing by, without any specific purpose. But he had followed Jessica here. I didn't know what he intended to do. Jessica stayed here for 3 days, went shopping, ate out, and even pretended to be a student in our classroom for a bit. There are quite a few attractive guys in your class, broad shoulders, narrow waists, long legs, six-pack abs. If you get lonely, you could find someone to pass the time with. I covered her mouth. Thanks, but no thanks. TCH, you're not even 30 yet, living such a pure and ascetic life. That afternoon, I took her to the airport. She hugged me reluctantly. "When are you coming back?" "After the holidays." "Are you sure? You won't stay away, will you?" "No, I still need to go back and find a job. Start a company. I'll get my brother to invest in you." I smiled and patted her back. "All right, go on in. Have a safe trip." Coming out of the airport, a black car pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down, and Robert said, "Get in, I'll give you a ride." In that brief encounter that day, I hadn't noticed how much weight Robert had lost, the dark circles under his eyes, how suppressed and due. One cast he looked. I pulled open the car door and got in. He drove me back to my place as if he knew the route by heart. I said, "Let's talk." I invited Robert into my apartment. I was making coffee in the kitchen while he sat on the sofa. By the time I came out with 2 cups of coffee, Robert had fallen asleep. He was sleeping very deeply, even snoring softly. I looked at him expressionlessly for a long time, then turned and made a phone call. By the time I finished the call, Robert had woken up. Sorry, I fell asleep. Taking a deep breath, I asked him, "You didn't tell your mother about our divorce?" Robert froze. "Why did you come looking for me?" "Robert, what do you want?" Robert lowered his head, tracing the rim of the coffee cup in his hands. "I keep thinking about how things got this way. Where did things go wrong? Everything seemed fine, but then suddenly, one day, nothing was left. Catherine, let's start over. I can't let go. You won." Jessica's words suddenly echoed in my ears. Did he acknowledge that? The so-called emotional breakdown, it seemed even at this point, he hadn't acknowledged it. He still saw it as just a game between the two of us. This suddenly made me feel a little sad. It had been too many years, my entanglement with Robert, too many years. All the joys and sorrows flashed through my mind. It wasn't that I didn't care, I just chose not to think about it. We should be moving forward, not backward. How could we go back? Hit our heads against a wall? You can't go back. My clenched fists were trembling, shaking my entire body. My mouth opened and closed, but I couldn't utter a single word. My eyes felt burning hot. Finally, I turned and rushed into the bedroom, slamming the door shut. I stayed awake with my eyes open until dawn. As the sky lightened slightly, I heard the sound of the door closing from outside. Robert had left. I slept fitfully for a while, jolted awake by my alarm clock. By the time I got dressed and came out, Robert was placing breakfast on the table. "You're awake. Wash up and come eat something." My face expressionless, I opened the door and stared at him without saying a word. After a long silent standoff, he walked out. But when I returned after class, I found he was staying downstairs in my building. Jessica exclaimed, "Robert found you? How did he know where you are?" "It couldn't have been me." "No, it has nothing to do with you." "What does he want?" "It doesn't matter." "Catherine, please, don't ever like him again. You've suffered enough these past years." 2 months after going abroad, I smoked for the first time. At dinner time, Robert knocked on my door and said he had grilled fish and asked if I wanted to eat together. I spoke again. "Let's talk." Robert and I got into the same college. We dated, started a business, got married. Every step was difficult. Breaking up in the end, that was 12 years. What should we talk about? How should we talk? I couldn't even find an entry point. Robert spoke first. "Sarah and I were fake." I knew. A girl on an electric scooter who rear-ended her, couldn't afford the compensation, could only pay in installments. He deliberately let me see their chat records. Seeing my indifference, he hired the girl at the company and had me train her personally. Because the girl was upset by a client, he questioned me, "Is this how you take care of people important to me?" I said, "Everyone is the same. That's how I made it too." He sneered, "Compared to her, do you even qualify?" He never avoided suspicion, letting everyone think the girl was the future boss's wife. When he fell ill, the girl worried about him. "Miss Catherine, Robert has suffered so much. Can you please stop hurting him?" I knew Robert was doing it on purpose. He was sad, he was angry, so he wanted to retaliate against me 100-fold, 1,000-fold. But our problems have very little to do with Sarah. She's a good person, simple, cheerful, and she likes you. If you're going to start a new relationship, she's a good choice. Robert looked at me with an inscrutable expression. After a moment, he laughed, a laugh that was both absurd and sarcastic. "Catherine, sometimes I wonder if you have any feelings at all. Anytime, any choice you make, you're weighing the pros and cons. You're so calm it's almost cold. Catherine, do you remember we once had a child? If it weren't for you, they would be born by now." Finally, Robert said it. My heart clenched, skipping a beat for a moment. I looked up at the clean ceiling. I said softly, "It's strange. That child was in my belly for 3 months, and you didn't have any feelings for them. But when I terminated the pregnancy, they became everyone's beloved treasure." Robert and I had a child. The child came at a bad time, right when the company was preparing to go public. And I had severe pregnancy symptoms. Robert felt sorry for me and told me to take leave and rest well. I didn't agree, pushing through the discomfort to work in the business world. Finally, I started bleeding. Robert got very angry and forced me into the hospital to stay and rest. I lay in the hospital for a week, my laptop and phone never stopped. Robert's face was grim, and he threw my laptop. "Do you think the world stops turning without you?" We had a big fight. Robert unilaterally announced, "I'll transfer your work to someone else. Stop working. Rest at home. I'm not discussing this with you." He was worried about me, he cared about this child, and my condition really wasn't good. I had compromised. But I wasn't willing to leave my career. I would ask about the company's recent situation, the progress of projects, and ask if I could sit in on some important meetings. Robert refused them one by one. "Just rest well at home and take care of the baby after they're born. You won't have that much time." I was stunned. Ly asked for 2 weeks off. Robert pursed his lips. "Catherine, stop working. Just stay at home, read, drink tea, tend to your plants. Do you know? I always envied people whose homes always had a light on for them, unlike you and me, both busier than the other. Look at our apartment, is there any warmth of home? Now that the company is on track, I'll handle things outside and you handle things inside. And with a child, someone needs to be there. You don't want them to be like us, getting no family warmth at all." It was absurd. Robert and I had been together for so many years, we worked together, we were lovers, friends, partners, competitors. But in the end, he told me he wanted a good wife and mother who would take care of the home and raise the children. We had our most intense argument ever, followed by a Cold War. I ended my leave and went back to the workplace immediately. Robert was furious. "Do you only care about yourself, ignoring everything else? Go home. I'll talk to HR. I said coldly, "Talk about what? Say I was fired, or that you're laying me off. What right do you have to handle my resignation? Who even knows we're married?" Robert's face was grim. "Is that all because of this? Fine, when the baby is born, I'll announce it at the full moon party, okay?" That sentence stopped all my words. I didn't understand when making our marriage public became a condition to manipulate me. Of course, these things alone weren't enough to make me terminate the pregnancy. I held on. The emotional torment, the physical discomfort, and the confrontation with Robert. Until I accidentally overheard a conversation between him and his mother. Getting pregnant with this child was an accident. We had been trying to get pregnant, but we still got pregnant. As if it was meant to be. But Robert said he did it on purpose. He deliberately got me pregnant at this time. Otherwise, once the company went public, it would be even harder to get me to leave. His mother agreed, "That's why I told you to sign a prenuptial agreement with her, but you refused. After the child is born, have her sign this agreement. Everything you have will be the child's in the future. Even if you divorce, she won't get a single cent." Robert was unhappy. "I told you, don't scheme against her." Is this scheming? I'm doing this for your own good. A woman with ambition doesn't care about home. Do you look like you have a wife and family? Not a single hot meal, no one to tidy your clothes. Catherine isn't someone who's content. If you don't make her completely dependent on you, how can you control her? Robert was silent. He held that agreement for a long time, finally putting it in his bag. I knew he had listened. This sent a chill down my spine. How ironic. A child, still an embryo, became my weakness. He was a tool for others to scheme against me and tie me down. I had to give up myself for him. Could I do that? I couldn't. I am calm, cold, selfish. So after only thinking about it for one night, I scheduled an abortion procedure. Robert was shaking. I just wanted a normal family life. Was I wrong? Husband, wife, child, a family has its divisions of labor. We all have to sacrifice. Why couldn't you? I looked at Robert. Why did it have to be me? You work, you start businesses, is it just for your wife and child, for your family? That's your dream, your career, your achievement. What about my dream, my career, my achievement? Robert, if you want a good wife and mother, go find one. Don't find me and try to turn me into that. Robert's face was pale and drawn, he looked at me with a touch of panic. Just like that boy 17 years ago, with his injured leg, holding me. Robert returned to the US. His collaboration with Xinhui was imminent. I was busy with school and had also taken on consulting for a company. I was swamped. After talking things through with Robert, I thought we would see each other again. But a few days later, he appeared downstairs again. After a silent exchange of glances, I intended to ignore him and leave. But he suddenly called out to me, I brought some things you like to eat. Let's have dinner together tonight. Robert, you're wasting your time. You should be very busy right now. Don't do these meaningless things. I'm not busy for now. I have time, and this isn't meaningless. I looked at him suspiciously. Shouldn't you be pushing forward with your Xinhui project right now? Didn't sign it. He said those two words lightly, but my ears buzzed for a few seconds. What did you say? The Xinhui project, there was a problem. Didn't sign it. Robert, do you know what you're saying? It's just a business deal. You don't need to react so strongly. Robert, you're too arrogant. You don't know what you've lost. After parting ways with Robert on bad terms, I went to school. Midway through, I called Jessica and asked her to tell her brother to try and pick up the pieces from the Xinhui deal. At the same time, I asked her, do you know why? Jessica paused. I heard a little something. Apparently, there was a conflict during the signing, and Robert hit someone. By the way, is the Xinhui collaboration very profitable? I said, yeah. It's like an annuity for your brother's company. Really? Although Jessica was skeptical, she still told her brother. Half an hour later, a 7-figure sum was transferred to my bank account. My brother said thank you. In the evening, I returned home. Before I even got upstairs, I heard crying. It was Sarah. How can you say you don't like me? You like me. I can feel it. Otherwise, you wouldn't give up the Xinhui project for me. Robert, wake up. There's no future for you and Catherine anymore. Dare you say that during the time we were together, even if it was pretend, you didn't develop real feelings? Standing downstairs, I hesitated. I did. And want to get involved in their issues. But I was so tired. I just wanted to collapse into bed and sleep. In the end, I still walked up. Turning the corner, I saw Sarah clinging tightly to Robert, crying uncontrollably. Robert's expression was complicated, his hands hanging at his sides clenching and unclenching. Until he saw me. Instantly, he pushed Sarah away. Sarah hit the wall, letting out a muffled cry. I instinctively reached out to help her, but she slapped my hand away angrily. Catherine, I'm begging you, can you just stay away from Robert? Leave him alone. Shut up. You just don't love him anymore, otherwise, you wouldn't even give up your child. He can't see it, but I see it clearly. Sarah, I told you to shut up. I won't. Sarah's eyes were wide, filled with hurt when looking at Robert, but with hatred when looking at me. Can't you just stay out of our lives? If you hadn't deliberately gone abroad and caused all this drama, we would have already started over. I looked at Sarah quietly. I didn't want to talk to someone being unreasonable. They only spoke in terms of emotions, not logic. So I turned to Robert. Control her. Making this much noise will make people call the police. Sarah tried to rush towards me again, but Robert's face darkened and he pulled her back. Can you please stop making a scene? What happened between them later, I don't know. I saw Robert again 2 days later. Fresh daisies. I just bought them. He had a pleading smile on his face. I walked past him expressionlessly. He grabbed me. Things aren't the way you heard. There's nothing going on between Sarah and me. I've already sent her back to the US. She won't bother you again. I took a deep breath. Then can you please stop bothering me too? Robert flinched. Do you have to be so heartless? I made mistakes, I admit it. But Catherine, you weren't entirely right either. Weren't there better options back then? Did you really VE to terminate the pregnancy? What else? I said those 3 words very softly. But Robert heard them. My wrist slipped from his grasp. You always say I'm cold-hearted and only consider the pros and cons when I do things. That's because my cost of making a mistake is much higher than yours. You could skip school, take all your savings and want to elope with me. Missing college wasn't important to you. You could retake the exams, go abroad, start over anytime. But that was my only chance to rewrite my life. That child, I could have kept them. We could have communicated, tried. The outcome wouldn't necessarily have been the worst. But I didn't have the courage to risk it. A life, how much would it tie me down? I didn't know. What could I, someone from a dysfunctional family, give them? I also didn't know. One path was full of uncertainty, one path was one I had control over. I would only choose the latter. Before I turned 20, I lived by 2 words, escape. I was born into a typically bad family. My mother said my father used to be very good, loving and doting on her. Everything changed when I was born. The child my mother's body was ruined to give birth to was a daughter, unable to carry on the Zhuang family name. My father took one look and walked away, ignoring my mother on the hospital bed and me, crying out for milk. Even my name was given by a teacher in the same hospital room. My father started drinking, gambling, and hitting people. When I was little, my mother would always cry and say I was worthless, that it was all because of me, that it was all my fault. As I got older, I started protecting my mother. She relied on me while also resenting me, and she told me not to hate my father. Later, she started hitting me too. The first time I suggested she get a divorce, she went crazy, saying I hadn't hurt her enough and wanted to ruin her completely. At that moment, I understood, I had to escape. To this day, I'm almost completely disconnected from them, only sending them monthly financial support. No matter if they slander me or curse me, I don't care. From then on, I only lived by 2 other words, myself. I'm grateful that I raised myself well. So I won't allow any deviations along the way. I won't let myself down. Robert's face was full of pain. If you had talked to me properly, if we had talked it through. But there are no ifs in the world. Robert, we just drifted apart. You have to admit that. And I never look back. My next encounter with Robert was the day after I returned to the US. Jessica happily invited me out for dinner. Robert was in another private room. When I went to wash my hands, I ran into him coming out of the restroom. He looked a little disheveled, clearly having just thrown up. Seeing me, he instinctively straightened up. You're back in the US? Yeah. Are you leaving again? After the new year. Happy New Year in advance. Robert froze. Jessica said Robert wasn't doing well right now. The IPO failed, he couldn't restore his father's business, his mother was very disappointed in him, and she slapped him in public. Did you foresee this? I nodded. Xinhui was key. If it were the Robert of the past, he wouldn't have missed it. Perhaps the path had been too smooth, perhaps our issues had stripped away too much of his reason. He had become arrogant and overbearing. Now, though not starting from scratch, he was struggling. Sarah was still by Robert's side, staying loyal. She had started drinking and no longer got teary-eyed over someone's words. This shared experience in difficult times might just lead to a happy ending for them. Jessica asked, will you feel resentful? Will you wish them business failure and eventually become a miserable couple? I shook my head. Life is a process of continuous choices. Once you choose, you accept it, and you keep moving forward without looking back. Family, friendship, love, career, education, hobbies. Each is just a small part of life. In this world, the only one who truly accompanies you is yourself. Raise yourself well, take care of yourself. Live life, and don't let yourself down.